Hello everyone and welcome to my channel once again. So, before we start off with the actual guide of the new build based on the shadow nerfs that hit us, let me say that I know a lot of you dislike the quality of my microphone and I'm definitely planning to buy a new one, a proper one, but for now please bear with me and I hope that me messing around with the firmware and settings and equalizer and everything helped my voice a little bit to be a little bit clearer and less annoying. Anyway, let's get right into the build. We got shadow nerfed, but I think it's actually a buff. And now let me elaborate on that. It's because like the builds that we were using when the season started were still based on core and cutthroat skill damage, which from now on does not increase our damage over time from poison imbuement. So it's quite a huge nerf, but at the same time we were so strong even the past week while still running unoptimized builds, clearing T100 with ease, destroying all Uber bosses. Like there are people who managed to kill Lilith before reaching level 90 from what I've heard with the old builds. So yeah, it's essentially a buff because now when we optimize our builds to go accordingly to the nerf that has been in place since the season started, or at least that's what it looked like, we are only gonna become stronger. So let's start off with the Paragon board. We had to change quite a lot of stuff here, especially because of the Cunning Stratagem board, being completely gone because we simply don't need it anymore because it was stacked with core skill damage that we kind of avoid now. So yeah, let's get right into it. I shared the Paragon board, the build itself, in the Discord yesterday. Yesterday was it when the Shadow Nerf was announced. So maybe some of you have seen it already, but I really like to do deep dives so that you understand what it means for us, why I made the choices that I made, and why I think a lot of the people will either come to the same conclusion or just simply copy and paste the boards, or at least part of them. So, first board. Not much has changed here. We still take all of the damage because flat damage gets added twice to our damage, so we definitely want to get as much as possible. We also get the resistances here with some extra life. We use versatility as our glyph, again maxing out on the flat damage nodes. Here, versatility itself giving us increased damage on our non-basic and non-core skills as well. So a must-have glyph. Then we go up. We are using the cheap shot board. Still almost the same thing, but here we are actually going to the right and we are taking just the damage reduction from elites. And then we continue to the left, taking all of the crowd control damage that we can, plus cheap shot, of course, that helps our damage quite a lot, especially in AoE situations. Again, going to the right, taking all of the damage to crowd controlled enemies. That's our main source of damage, and here we are using control glyph. Another increase to our damage to crowd controlled enemies, which turns into an insane amount of damage from close quarters combat passive, plus obviously the increased damage dealt to chilled or frozen enemies. Then we go to the left, again taking all of the damage to crowd controlled enemies nodes that we can, and now the change begins. We are using Leirana's Instinct board this time around, and I went for Devious Glyph. The reason for that, in my opinion, is simple. I simply cannot imagine a different glyph being there, and that's because it not only buffs the magic nodes as in the damage it gives us, but it also buffs the duration. So by playing Devious in the Leirana's Instinct board, we not only get more than 70% all damage buff, we also get pretty much 100% uptime on it because we get it for 10 seconds after dodging an attack. We also get a lot of resistances to all elements here, so we did some changes to the gear as well to still reach the 70% cap on all of the resistances, even by using some new items that people managed to test in the last week and that turned out to be extremely powerful. Then we go up. Here the board is exploit weakness. Once again, in the past week, vulnerable has been tested to be a very good additive stat still for our damage over time effects. It is also a very easy board to use Bane in, to maximize on Bane, or like to put a lot of points in Bane to maximize our poison damage. We also have 10% chance to deal double the amount of damage over time, you know, throughout its duration. So it's essentially a 10% damage buff. So Bane, 100%, we need it. We take all of the nodes around here as well for the vulnerable damage. As I said, still a good additive damage. On our way, it's very easy to get another vulnerable damage bonus here. With damage to injured enemies, we no longer have Barber, so damage to injured enemies actually helps us in fights as well. So once again, a pretty good rare node to get. Then we go to the right and take No Witness Board. Nothing has changed here, still taking all of the flat damage modifiers that we can get here using Efficiency Glyph, because we only need the knowledge rare node itself, because it's 23 intelligence and 1 intelligence right next to it to proc efficiency. So we maximize on the gain here. We take some more max life, you know, flat damage as I told you before. So yeah, definitely a board and definitely a glyph to have there. Then we go up and we go for Eldritch Bounty. Not much has changed here, still using Kenny here. Still pretty much the best board or the best legendary node that we can get for poison builds because of its effect, you know, increasing damage for that imbuement element that we use our poison so when we use our poison imbuement, we essentially get 20% more damage because it's applied instantly. We don't have to do some poison damage first and then it procs. It's like immediately more damage on our poison imbuement. On the way, we are taking the non-physical damage modifiers that we can get here. We are also going to the right, taking imbued skill damage. It still is some damage modification, not to our damage over time effect, but to the twisting blade itself when imbued, and we are using double imbuement, so that's pretty much all of the time. Then we go to the right, and that's where our last board is, and it is Tricks of the Trade, and I went with Frost Feeder. Frost Feeder has an advantage and a disadvantage. The advantage is that we are playing Frigid Finesse, so you gain 20% increased chill effect. What it means is that we are chilling enemies faster. We are ticking the chill effects faster, so the sooner they get frozen, the sooner we can proc Frigid Finesse and do an insane amount of damage. So that's super valuable. The disadvantage is it doesn't work on bosses before they get staggered, and it doesn't work on constructs either, because constructs cannot be CC'd, of course. But still, Frost Feeder is definitely my pick. It's also super easy to proc in this board, and we are taking some extra damage to elites here and there, and some armor. So a lot of people might be asking now, okay, but I've seen builds running Deadly Venom instead of Frigid Finesse. Is it better? Is it worse? Well, in overall run, in overall damage, Deadly Venom is worse than Frigid Finesse, because Frigid Finesse only works, Deadly Venom only works on poisoning damage, while Frigid Finesse boosts all of our damage. That means our basic skills, our literally absolutely everything, you know, our cold imbued twisting blades. So it's definitely more value in AoE, but as I told you, constructs cannot be chilled, bosses before reaching staggers are not chilled, so playing Deadly Venom or, for example, Turf as the last glyph is more valuable. Turf defensively as well, but more valuable before chilling the enemy. Overall, still Frigid Finesse, way higher damage modifier, so definitely my recommendation. Now, let's look at the skill tree, not much has changed here. Still using Puncture as our basic attack. Enhanced Puncture, Fundamental Puncture, 5 points in Twisting Blades, Enhanced Twisting Blades, and Improved Twisting Blades. Still the same thing, Daze with Twisting Blades, extremely powerful, works so well with our other passives and skills that, yeah, like, it's a must-have. 3 points in Sturdy for some extra DR, 3 points in Siphoning Strikes for some extra healing. Siphoning Strikes combined with Undying Vampiric Power gives us so much healing that Butcher, you know, etc. just doesn't exist. You can overheal it and it's a lot of fun to play with. Eventually, to be honest, even during Season 1, Siphoning Strikes was enough to heal through the T100 and to kill Butcher if you played the mechanic, if you played the tactic that you pretty much like sidestep after every attack, so that Butcher never actually attacks you, you just like go in circles. But while with combining the both, it's just so much healing. But yeah, like eventually we might even not use Undying because yeah, it was enough in Season 1 to overheal everything with just Siphoning Strikes, and enemies are now even weaker than before, and we are stronger. So yeah, might not even need Siphoning Strikes or Undying eventually, and we can you know, go for something else, go for more damage, for example. Then 1 point in Shadow Step, Enhanced Shadow Step for some increased crit strike chance, and Methodical Shadow Step. Methodical Shadow Step is super important because our main source of damage is damage to crowd controlled enemies, but obviously the boss isn't crowd controlled before reaching stagger, so we need to use everything we can to make the boss reach stagger as fast as possible so that we can literally one-shot it with one poison tick. Then 1 point in Dash, Rapid Gambits and Tricks attacks. 3 points in Agile. This works extremely well with the Leirana's board because the more we dodge, the better uptime we have on the damage increase from Leirana's board. So Agile extremely potent in this combination. It also helps us with survivability because if you dodge the attack, you negate the damage completely. 1 point in Dark Shroud, Enhanced Dark Shroud, and Subverting Dark Shroud. Subverting Dark Shroud increases our movement speed, which is good for speed clearing, but it also works with Ravenous Vampiric Power that turns our movement speed into attack speed. At first, though, you might not have good enough items to, you know, to have Ambrose being played on your amulet, thus actually having a lot of the balls up at all times, maximizing the benefit from Subverting Dark Shroud, which with every ball gets, you know, less and less beneficial. So it is better to play Countering Dark Shroud because 2 balls you have on you pretty much at all times. So these are the options you have here. I leave that up to you and up to your like improvisation based on the gear that you are running at the time. 5 points in Poison Imbuement, Enhanced Poison Imbuement, Blended Poison Imbuement, 3 points in Deadly Venom. If you're feeling too squishy, you can actually put 2 points in Debilitating Toxins. Or you might even take 1 point out of Siphoning Strikes and put 3 points there. So again, it really depends on the gear you are running, like how lucky you were with your rolls, whether the gear is 4 out of 4 best in slot, etc. So you need to do these small changes based on your build, on your gear. Then 3 points into Frigid Finesse, the other 3 points we get from the amulet, and 3 points in Precision Imbuement. Crit strike chance, still a very strong stat. It's yeah, it makes us do so much more damage, and we are going double imbuement in this build, so pretty much all of our skills are imbued at all times. So this is essentially 100% uptime damage modifier, crit strike chance modifier. So yeah, we won that. 3 points in Innervation. With the amount of attack speed that we have, Innervation gives us so much energy back. 3 points in Alchemist Fortune and 3 points in Second Wind. to max out on the lucky hit chance, or like to get as much lucky hit chance as possible, to constantly be in bursting venoms, to constantly proc all of our items, etc. Because, you know, more lucky hit means more energy, more damage. More energy means more damage as well, you know, more healing from siphoning strikes, more everything. So lucky hit chance, we love, we want it. 1 point in Adrenaline Rush for some more energy regeneration, 3 points in Haste, because Haste gives us movement speed, which turns into attack speed, and attack speed we really love, because, yeah, it helps us with everything. When we are above 50% energy, and when we are below, we gain attack speed as well. So this is extremely potent passive. We want it, we need it. And then, of course, close quarters combat. Close quarters combat is so strong now, and close quarters combat is why we are running so much damage to crowd controlled enemies, because it turns all of our damage into being higher. Because once we proc close quarters combat, we gain 140% multiplicative damage increase to all of our damage. So this is the reason. Now, let's look at the gear. We did some changes here as well. So, starting with the helmet, we are going Cowl of the Nameless, because it gives us DR from close, the only helmet with DR from close. Shaco helmet obviously has flat DR, so that's even stronger. Like if you have 20% roll on Shaco helmet, it's just mwah. But for most people, or before reaching Shaco, Cowl of the Nameless is the way to go. Plus, it also gives us 18% crowd control duration, or based on a roll, obviously. But crowd control duration is extremely potent and important in staggering the boss, because crowd control duration actually makes it faster to stagger the boss. So, yeah, Cowl of the Nameless, extremely good. Helmet plus, against crowd-controlled enemies, we again have increased lucky hit chance, which for us means more energy, more healing, more damage, more everything. I have two other options. Those are Harlequin Crest and a normal helmet as well, where I went for max life, cooldown reduction, ranks of poison imbuement, of course, and total armor. And based on each helmet, our pants change a little bit, so I made it easy for you down there, or like here. You can choose what helmet you are running, and the pants will change automatically in the builder, so you don't really have to think about it too much. The aspect I went for is Shared Misery, because Shared Misery is not only an offensive aspect, because the sooner we spread all of the freezes, all of the CC to benefit from our damage to crowd controlled enemies, you know, it is also a defensive aspect, because if the enemy cannot move, cannot attack, then it deals no damage. So Shared Misery is my pick here, but you can also go for Noxious Ice. Noxious Ice giving you faster chilling of enemies, so faster freezes, and it also increases your damage against frozen enemies with poison, so a very good pick as well. For our chest, what we want, pretty much the same as Season 1. Total armor, DR close, DR distant, DR flat, and the aspect here is might. For our gloves, again, the same thing. Lucky hit chance, attack speed, crit strike chance, and for ranks of twisting blades. The aspect here is bursting venoms, because we want to be in our poison imbuement as much as possible, because this is super poison based build. So yeah, without bursting venoms, it just wouldn't work so well. It just wouldn't work so well. So bursting venoms here. Then when we go for our pants with Cowl of the Nameless, what we want is total armor, damage reduction flat, damage reduction from distant, so that we have each of the damage reduction modifier twice. So we have twice flat, twice close, and twice distant. That's like the best combination to squeeze out the most amount of damage reduction. And what I went for here is actually another dodge chance. It's dodge chance against closed enemies. Thanks to all of the dexterity that we have, thanks to agile, we are running a lot, and I mean a lot of dodge chance. So we are 12% dodge chance overall, just from our stats, plus another 12.6% dodge chance against close, meaning we have more than 23% chance to dodge all attacks from close enemies, and we get another 12% from agile, so more than 30% chance to completely immune all of the damage in close, more than 20% to ignore all of the damage from distant enemies as well, plus again works so well with the Lyrana's Instinct Paragon Board, so we have 100% uptime on more than 70% flat damage modifier. So yeah, this is like, I'm pretty sure that this is the best combination, the best synergy with the new Paragon Board you can possibly get. Now, the aspect here is disobedience. At first, if your gear is very low item power, or your total armor rolls are very low, or maybe you don't even have them at all because you simply haven't been as lucky, you might wanna swap disobedience and Umbrous aspect from the amulet and use it there instead, simply to reach the 13,000 armor cap, which we still want to get. For our boots, we are using Penitent Greaves, still the best boots in the game. Not only it helps us chill enemies, which works extremely well with the Frigid Finesse, it also gives us everything we might ever wish for. Cold resistance, it helps us cap the resistances. You know, crowd control duration, it helps us stagger bosses faster. So we have it twice now with Cowl of the Nameless, staggering the bosses pretty fast, especially with Cold Imbuement that we are using without actually having to put any points there, and we have 7 ranks in it. We are freezing enemies so extremely fast thanks to Cold Imbuement that yeah, we are pretty much always fighting against frozen enemies, maximizing the gain from Frigid Finesse, you know, and movement speed, which turns into not just movement speed but also attack speed. For our two-hander, what we go for is damage to crowd control, damage to close, all stats, and dexterity. We are still benefiting from the vulnerable damage it gives us by being a crossbow, and aspect here is corrupting aspect. Then, when we look at the amulet, we are using 3 ranks of all imbuments, 3 ranks of Frigid Finesse, energy cost reduction, and movement speed. This combined gives us the highest amount of damage we can possibly get in the game. Movement speed, again, you know, helps us clear faster, but also gives us attack speed. The aspect here, as you might have seen when I told you to maybe swap them around if needed, is Umbrous. That's how we proc our Dark Shroud without having Dark Shroud on our actual bar. Our ring here is damage to crowd controlled enemies, max life, lucky hit chance, crit strike chance with pestilent points aspect. Still, pestilent points super important to have, especially with all of the attack speed. We attack so fast that pestilent points helps us burst, not burst, but yeah, burst into bursting venoms, so that we can do all of that insane poison damage. And our second ring is X4 scored Signet. It was tested to be extremely strong, even with unoptimized builds and people running very low item power items, very bad rolls on the items, and very bad stats on the items. This ring was already exploding for 500,000 damage, and that was without critting, and this ring can even crit. The reason why it deals so much damage is that, like, for the first time ever, Blizzard actually did something right, and the ring benefits from our stats, so that's why it's so potent. For the jeweler here, we went for lightning resistance, poison resistance, and fire resistance. So together with Penitent Greaves, we are already maxed out on almost all of our resistances. And now you might be wondering, where is the Shadow Resistance? Well, Shadow Resistance is the least encountered non-physical damage in the game, and even without using the gems, we are at 60% based on your rolls. Almost 60% on Shadow Resistance, which is more beneficial than either using your points to get it, or using one of the FXs on the gear to get it. So yeah, we benefit more from going damage and just damage reductions on our gear than just getting Shadow Resistance capped, because all of the main damage resistances we kept at more than 70% now. There is also some room for low rolls on your gear, so you don't have to be afraid of that. You will be capped on it. Now for our weapons, one of the weapons is damage to crowd controlled enemies, damage to close, all stats, and dexterity with Blade Dancer's aspect. Blade Dancer's aspect still the strongest aspect for Poison Rogue, especially because the orbiting blades apply poison imbuement at 100% power, 100% potency. So yeah, it's a must-have. You can't play without it. The other weapon being another dagger with the same stats and accelerating aspect. Now you might be asking, where is Ashira's Kanjar? Well, let me explain my choice here. Ashira's Kanjar is not only harder to get than a normal dagger, it's also harder to get at 925 item power, but by just killing a few world bosses, like 2 or 3, there is a very high chance you will have 2 925 weapons. And I also know people who just by killing world bosses got 2 of such daggers at 3 out of 4 and 4 out of 4 in terms of affixes. So going with Ashira's Kanjar, that a lot of people got like sub 850 item power, is just not worth over having a max item power weapon. So that's why I went with a normal dagger. Also, with Ravenous, Vampiric Power, and all of the attack speed we get from our skill tree, we get from our items, we are already at more than 100 attack speed. So accelerating that can bypass the attack speed cap, in my opinion, might be more valuable than Ashira's Kanjar. If you are not maxed out on attack speed, because you maybe don't have movement speed on your amulet, so you don't benefit from Ravenous as much, you know, stuff like that, then Ashira's Kanjar is still extremely valuable, extremely powerful, especially because it gives us a lucky hit. But if I were to have a very low lucky hit proc on Ashira's Kanjar and very low item power, I would not use it myself. So that's my explanation there. Now when we look at the Vampiric Powers, they are pretty much mandatory. Flowing Veins for more damage over time against enemies afflicted by our Vampiric Curse. A Cursed Touch, that's how we apply the Vampiric Curse. It's way stronger than Metamorphosis. Metamorphosis has a very, very intrusive animation that actually, and I've talked to a lot of people about it, stops your character from moving, and it's really clunky to use. So you not only lose damage by using it, you also lose your ability to evade an attack, to apply Vampiric Curse, and then maybe not having the evade to actually evade damage taken, etc. So definitely steer away from Metamorphosis. A Cursed Touch is so potent that, plus it gives you some more AoE as well, thanks to the Accursed Souls. But it is so potent that you attack even at like low level. My main character is now level 70, my main rogue is level 70, and with just like 2 attacks, the whole screen is cursed. So definitely a Cursed Touch here. Then aforementioned Ravenous, our pretty much main source of damage, extremely potent. As you can see, current bonus 61% to attack speed with the best in slot gear. And that's not accounting for our proc in the skill tree, you know, giving us movement speed, etc. So yeah, extremely potent, mandatory. Then Undying for some extra healing, as I told you. Connect this with Siphoning Strikes and you have so much healing that Butcher does not even exist in the game. And then you, like, at lower levels, you will probably be using Resilience for more damage reduction, or if your gear is really bad. But then you really want to swap to Prey on the Weak, because Prey on the Weak not only gives us multiplicative damage increase against vulnerable enemies, it places vulnerable on all the enemies afflicted by our Vampiric Curse, which are pretty much all the enemies we fight against. So this is extremely valuable to make use of our, not only the additive vulnerable damage stat, but also the base 20% multiplicative damage increase from vulnerable. So extremely potent Vampiric power. And then the specialization that we go for are combo points. So this was part 1 of the new and updated Poison Ivy based on the Shadow nerfs, which I actually call buffs. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you're having as much fun in the game as I do now, because yeah, it's so much more friendly for even casual players, and I kinda am, because of me studying university, etc. I don't have so much time to play now that the holidays are over, so I am super excited about this season. I'm super happy with the changes. Part 2, which is focused on Uber bosses, coming soon. Thanks for watching. See ya in the next one.